Hello everyone, how's it going? In this video I want to differentiate between, in my opinion, what early, mid, and late game towns are, and how it affects how much you build up the starting areas and the neutral areas around them. So why don't I start off by talking about, in my opinion, what the early, mid, and late game towns are. So starting off with early game, you have probably the two strongest early game towns, the Conflux and the Rampart. Conflux, your air elementals and water elementals are statistically by far the best level 2s and 3s. And once they upgrade, they both become archers that are still very, very powerful. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're the only archers in the game that have above average stats. And also have a ranged ability for their respective tier. The Rampart also has a very, very strong beginning because Centaurs and Centaur Captains are very, very strong statistically and fast. And then Grand Elves can shoot twice and pack a very strong punch. So both of these within the first 3 levels can very, very quickly capture their surrounding area and can very, very quickly put pressure on enemies on a small enough map. Now, I've got my dividing river here. Strongholds and fortresses can both rush their level 6 and 7 units very quickly. So even though they're level with Stronghold, even though their behemoths aren't that great, the rocks are very good creatures, but behemoths aren't that great, but they're cheap and you can get them fast. You can rush with the Stronghold, and they can be a good early game threat. The fortress, you can get dragonflies and wyverns very quickly, so even though they're weak creatures, they're flyers that can reach across the map, and they are going to be higher level than early game stuff. So they aren't technically early game because you have to rush for it, and that probably is the best way to build those towns. But when you're looking purely at when everyone peaks level-wise, Conflux and Rampart stand out for early game towns. Okay, moving on to mid-game. This is probably where traditionally Strongholds and Fortress would fall. In my opinion, the Stronghold and Fortress, once you rush and those creatures have been beaten back a little bit, you're going to want to rebuild. So that's where a lot of your ogres, your thunderbirds, and more behemoths are going to make you powerful early-ish to mid. And once you can get your basilisks and your gorgons out for Fortress, you now have a second line to follow up with that first line of flyers. The only town that I feel is pure mid-game would be Inferno, and this is because Demons, Pit Fiends, and Efreet, unupgraded, are very, very strong level 4 to 6 units. Devils have the highest defense of non-upgraded level 7, and they can reach across most of the map. So as far as unupgraded 4 to 7, the Inferno probably has one of the stronger lineups there, and I don't include them late because the Efreet Sultans and Archdevils fall off quite a bit, especially when number differences start showing up. Now, in my dividing line, I've got the two maybe mid-game, definitely late-game towns. With Tower, I feel like Tower could be mid-game. Unupgraded mages do very, very good damage and have good attack. Genies and Nagas are very, very good. Genies are fast and hit hard, and Nagas have, I believe, the highest damage of level 6 unupgraded units. So 4, 5, and 6 is strong for Tower, but I feel that your combination late game of Master Genies, Naga Queens, and Titans make them a much stronger late game than they are mid game. And then finally Castle, Obviously late game they're going to be phenomenal. However, mid-game, if you can get Crusaders out there with marksmen to back them up and Cavaliers, you've now got 2 units that can shoot twice and a very, very strong level 6 unit. So Castle can be a mid-game threat as well as late game. And then finally, we've got the 4 late-game towns. Castle, because of Archangels and Champions just being by far some of the best level 6 and 7 units. They don't have good archers, but the Crusaders more than make up for it by being a strong level 4. Tower, like I just said, Master Genie, Naga Queens, Titans. The dungeon, because your Minotaur Kings and your Dragons are your strength. Your level 2, 3, and 4 are very weak units damage-wise, and your Manticores level 6, again, pretty weak units. So you have to get those Minotaur Kings and those Black Dragons out, so they're late game. And then for Necropolis, obviously, the longer you go, the more powerful you become. Just make sure you fight every battle and raise skeletons. Necropolis could almost make a case for being mid-game if you get Black Knights and Vampire Lords out there. If you can't get Vampire Lords out there quick, then their strength falls off considerably. Black Knights, while very, very strong and fun to play with, you can't win with just those. You need a good amount of units to place well on this list. So that is my tier my tier list, in my opinion. I'm sure it's very different for everyone, and I'm sure people that are actually very good at playing Heroes 3 disagree with me on quite a number of those. The point is not to say this is best or that is best. The point of this is to get an idea for knowing how well to set up the starting area and the immediate neutral areas around. Because Conflux and Rampart are going to tear through a lot of neutral camps very early, you're going to want to put less in their starting area and more stuff in the neutral areas outside to encourage them to run out, because they're going to want to leave their starting area and try to find the other players right away. With the mid-game towns, you're going to want to kind of have a balance with strong starting areas versus strong exploration incentives, especially with Inferno, because of how quickly they fall off late game. You want to make sure that they can become very powerful somewhat quickly, so you'd probably want to show them where other towns are at, or in some way encourage them to expand beyond their initial town so that they can get a better presence going. Tower, even though the units make it a mid-game town, the resource cost to get all those units on the field is just so strong that you almost have to consider them late game. And then Castle, kind of the same thing, but really only Angels and Monks require the special resources. So I would consider them more late game as far as building setup. And the idea with the late game is, especially since Dungeon, Necropolis, and Tower unupgraded, it's going to struggle a little bit to clear these initial camps. You want to probably give them larger starting areas, or you want to give them more resources to help build up. These places are going to need the strongest starting areas if you want them to be competitive throughout the entire game, whereas these early game ones, you'll want the smallest or the weakest starting areas so that they can get out into the map and get a bigger map presence fast and early. So it's not so much in battle pick early game versus late game, or it's not so much in extra large maps don't pick early game towns. The purpose of this video is to let you know that when you're setting up a Rampart starting area, they're going to have Centaur Captains and Grand Elves very early, and they're going to just mow through neutral camps. So they'll have high-level heroes, and they will have strong units through the first month or however long it is before they go back to town. So you want to make the that first month or so very productive and let them capture a good amount of the map so that they can reap the benefits of the neutral areas before the other towns come in and just start pushing them out and pushing them back. So you really want to pay attention to playing to the strength of the town and the speed in which the town plays the map, and hopefully it allows you to bring some kind of balance to the map without having to do extensive play testing. So that's my opinion on early, mid, and late game. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.